Hi, I'm Michel, and I'd like to welcome you to a short webinar on contractor branding and the Retail Contractor Coalition. This webinar will answer 4 questions. First, what is branding? Second, why should contractors brand? Third, how do contractors win from a branding program? And finally, what makes the Retail Contractor Coalition different from other branding programs that are on the market? So what is branding? Well, it's more than just a logo on a piece of equipment. It's more than a logo on a thermostat. It's more than a refrigerator magnet. Branding is a comprehensive subject all on its own. It deals with a company's reputation, personality, uniqueness, positioning, promise, and image. Books have been written about each of these areas in isolation. So clearly, an in-depth discussion of everything about branding exceeds the scope of a short webinar like this. For many contractors, the key reason to brand is marketplace differentiation. To illustrate the power of branding, imagine if you had to sell water. Clean water is available from the kitchen tap for free. Public water fountains can be found in most commercial buildings offering chilled water free. And yet, over 206 billion bottles of water were sold in 2008. That's billion with a B. The growth of bottled water sales has been increasing at nearly an 8% annual growth rate. Dasani, a Coke brand, recently recorded just under $2 billion in annual sales. Again, that's a billion with a B. Aquafina, Pepsi's brand, did even better. And where does the water come from? Well, sometimes it's spring water, but often, well, you guessed it, it comes from PWS, or the public water supply. Now granted, the water's treated. It's put through a 4-stage reverse osmosis water purification system, eliminating any impurities, whether beneficial or not. Now, beneficial impurities? Well, one of the greatest public health benefits of the 20th century was the addition of small amounts of fluoride to our public water supplies. Since kids have begun drinking bottled water, there's actually been an upsurge in dental activity. So bottled water uses public water that's free, it's made less healthy for you, and they charge a premium for it. How do they get away with that? Some of it's convenience. You can't put a water cooler in your backpack. However, much of it's branding. Few products are branded like water. Water is branded based on its source or origin, where it's sold, its additives, its packaging, its price point, and on and on and on. If water can be branded, anything can be branded. Branding isn't new. Around 8,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia, villagers created stone seals they used to mark the caps and stoppers of food and beverages. As long as people traded within their village or the next village, the relationships were personal. People knew old Baba the oil merchant personally and knew he made good stuff. They trusted Baba. Over the next several thousand years, Mesopotamian villages grew into cities. Around 5,000 years ago, 20,000 people lived in the city of Uruk, located in present-day Iraq. With that many people, the personal trust relationships were broken. Products may not have been made by the seller, and no one knew what kind of quality was being purchased. The Mesopotamians came to rely on the stone seals impressed in the caps and stoppers of oil and wine. According to the archaeologist David Wingrove, these were the first brands. This means branding is at least 5,000 years old. Brands gave order to a confused world. Brands simplified communication. Brands indicated quality. Brands were promises. Fundamentally, brands are promises. Brands fulfill the same role today that they did 5 millennia ago. What did Baba the oil merchant promise? When he was personally selling his oil, he could personally elaborate on its quality. When Baba's oil was traded hands for the 3rd time in Uruk, Baba wasn't around to make a promise, yet buyers saw his brand as a promise. The buyer determined the brand's promise. Wait a second, the buyer determines the promise? Absolutely. Quote, brands are defined by the customer, end quote, wrote T. Scott Gross in Micro Branding. He went on to say, they exist as a feeling that extends beyond the product itself. Uber entrepreneur Richard Branson said, a brand is more than a name or a logo, it's a promise and a contract with every customer with whom you're dealing, and if people feel the offering does not live up to what they expect from the brand, they'll decide to stop buying. What they expect? You mean they have control? Absolutely. So why should you brand? Why should you brand your company if you're giving up control to the customer? Well, the obvious answer is to look in the yellow pages, or worse, look online. Contractors live in a sea of competitive sameness. The stark reality is you can sell your brand, that is, sell what makes you different, better, and unique, or you can win through a lower price. Webster's defines commodities as goods or services whose wide availability typically leads to smaller profit margins. For decades, industry consultants have noted the paltry profits in the plumbing and HVAC industries. In part, our profitability problems result from our branding problems. Some contractors sought to differentiate themselves from other contractors by paying $7,000 or more to become certified or a factory authorized reseller for one of the equipment manufacturer brands. If a contractor successfully promotes the significance of the equipment brand, the contractor merely shrinks the commodity pool from all contractors to those who have access to the equipment brand. This is the level 2 commodity trap. It's a smaller pool, but you're still positioning yourself as a commodity. And the emphasis is on the box, not on you. For personal products and services, local brand relationships trump national brand relationships. Few things are more personal than one's faith decision. Let's look at Fellowship Church. Based in Grapevine, Texas, it's one of the nation's 10 largest churches. It's a mega church. Fellowship took off when Ed Young Jr. was hired as a new pastor for a small Baptist church. Ed Young Jr. is the son of Ed Young, the senior pastor of Second Baptist Church in Houston, the largest Baptist church in the nation. Now, if anyone was steeped in the Baptist brand, it was Ed Young Jr. And he was coming to Dallas, Texas, where the Baptist brand is incredibly strong. Yet the first thing Ed Young Jr. did was sever the public connection with the Baptist brand. By doing so, he emphasized the personal nature of the relationship between the church and its members, and cut off any negatives that might stain his church based on the actions of another church or pastor operating under the Baptist brand. Many, if not most people attending Fellowship Church are unaware of the church's affiliation with the Southern Baptist Convention, nor do they care about it. They don't have personal relationships with the Southern Baptist Convention. The relationship is with the people at Fellowship Church. But it's still personal. As consultant Joe Cunningham likes to say, the first thing we ask homeowners is to show us to the thermostat, back where it's dark and quiet and no one can hear us. You see, this is a very personal decision. Moreover, when you think about it, all human interactions involving the consumer in HVAC sales and service occur with the contractor. It's the contractor who designs and installs the system. It's the contractor who provides all service. It's the contractor who responds when there's an emergency. All personal interactions are with the contractor. The manufacturer is an antiseptic, sterile, cold, and distant entity. The relationships are between people. The relationships are between the contractor and the consumer. Yet despite all of the relationships and all of the interactions, contractors think the equipment manufacturer's brand matters most. Why? The answer is that contractors live in HVAC world. This is a place where everything's upside down, including some of the thinking. Let me explain. In a large national survey of consumers who replaced their comfort systems within the last 2 years, 90% had no concerns about the brand of equipment purchased. Only 1.8% were concerned because they were unfamiliar with the brand. Now, does this mean consumers only bought brands they were already familiar with? Hardly. In fact, 39% bought brands they'd never heard of. And there's a lot to choose from with over 89 different certified condensing unit brands, plus dozens or even hundreds of other field brand names that piggyback off existing brand certifications. Much of the familiarity consumers report about the purchase process is the result of contractor education. For example, 58% of consumers said the reason for buying the equipment brand purchased was the contractor. Compared to 6 years ago, consumers are 50% more likely to buy an unknown equipment brand. The equipment brand is becoming less and less important over time. When consumers were asked if they looked for an equipment brand first or a contractor first, by a 3-to-1 margin, they indicated that they looked for the contractor. When asked what mattered most when selecting a contractor, 55% said the contractor's reputation. Isn't this just another way of saying the contractor's brand was the most important? By comparison, only 5% said they picked the contractor because he or she was an authorized brand dealer. Being an authorized brand dealer matters less than price, certified technicians, flat rate pricing, and speed of response. In other words, the contractor's brand is 11 times more powerful than the manufacturer's brand. But isn't the manufacturer's brand so much better known than the contractor's? Isn't the brand awareness high? Not really. The best known equipment brand has an unaided awareness of 30%. Number 2 has 14%, and number 3 is 12%. Interestingly, GE, which hasn't been sold in decades, is the industry's 4th best known brand. Let's compare HVAC brands with other products. OnStar, a relatively new brand, has a 90% brand awareness. So does KY Personal Lubricant. LendingTree, another relatively new brand, has an 84% brand awareness. DHL, which is known more for its trucks than any advertising, has a 60% awareness. Now, if DHL gets 60% awareness largely from its fleet of yellow trucks, imagine the awareness level you might attain in your community from your fleet. If you have a good truck ID program, it's entirely possible, even probable, that your company brand awareness in the community exceeds the brand awareness of the products you sell and install. Well, let's continue on. Lenovo, another new brand, has 59% brand awareness. And Haier, which is barely more than 5 years old, has 37%. Haier is not known for its HVAC products, but its appliances. Now think about it a second. An unknown Chinese appliance brand can enter the U.S. market and surpass the awareness levels of the entire HVAC industry in just a few short years. When you think about it, isn't 30% brand awareness the same as 70% unawareness? Look, HVAC manufacturer consumer advertising simply isn't enough to move the awareness needle. In 2008, according to Advertising Age magazine, consumer electronics giant Philips was the 100th largest advertiser, spending $350 million. Now, if we're very generous about the amount that the most prolific HVAC manufacturer spends on any one brand, and we combine co-op and dealer group, it's unlikely to reach $50 million. That's 1/7 the amount Philips spends. HVAC equipment consumer advertising is enough to influence the channel, but not enough to influence the consumer. It's like the guy screaming his lungs out at the top of the Rose Bowl during a capacity crowd. The contractor 2 rows down may hear him, but not the consumer standing on the 50-yard line. HVAC manufacturers are drowned out by the cacophony of a $300 billion consumer advertising market. It's why consumers, when asked what brand of air conditioner they own, often answer Honeywell. In truth, focusing on a manufacturer brand is a disservice to the consumer. If we're to line up every manufacturer's product from end to end, we'd conclude that they're all pretty good. This makes sense. HVAC is a mature industry. Any edge is quickly reverse engineered and replicated or exceeded by other manufacturers. The quality spread among manufacturers is pretty narrow. And yet among contractors, it's a different story. The quality spread among contractors in a given market is huge. This condensing unit set on 2x6s, bricks, and cinder blocks illustrates the problem. The fact is, the worst piece of equipment installed well is pretty good. The best piece of equipment installed poorly is horrible. This is why a survey of contractors in the Service Roundtable revealed that HVAC professionals consider 80% of the consumer's satisfaction with a comfort system to be the result of the contractor's installation. Only 20% results from the equipment, and that probably overstates the role of the equipment. The focus shouldn't be on the distributor, on the equipment manufacturer, on the thermostat manufacturer, or the compressor manufacturer. It should be on the most significant quality variable. The focus should be on the contractor. And yet, contractors still think that manufacturer advertising is important. It's not. Let's crunch the numbers and take a look. We'll start with a 1 million population market. Nationwide, the average household size is 2.59 people, so we divide 1 million by 2.59. This gives us 386,000 households. We aren't concerned with rental units since they tend to be price-driven. We'll look at owner-occupied households, which are 66% of all households. Multiply 386,000 by 66%, and we end up with 255,000 owner-occupied households. Since the average age of an air conditioner is 15 years, we'll assume that 1 out of 15 homes will replace in any given year. Of course, if there's been a lot of new construction activity in the past few years, this overstates the number of replacements. Yet, when we divide 255,000 by 15, we're left with 17,000 replacements. Roughly half of all replacements are planned. The rest are breakdown-driven. We'll assume that the company with the technician on the scene at the time of an air conditioner's DOA call will get the vast bulk of those replacements. To estimate the impact of the manufacturer's equipment brand, we're only concerned with planned replacements. So we multiply 17,000 by 50%, resulting in 8,500 planned replacements. If you remember the pie chart shown earlier, consumers seek an equipment brand 1 time out of 4, so we multiply 8,500 planned replacements by 25% to arrive at 2,100 homeowners seeking a specific equipment brand. Of course, there are lots of equipment brands to choose from. So let's take the best known brand, the one with awareness of 30%. Since no individual brand has 30% market share, we know that brand preference is less than the awareness number. But we'll be generous and assume that 30% of the homeowners seeking a specific brand are looking for this brand. Multiply 2,100 by 30% and we get 637 homeowners seeking this specific equipment brand. It's likely that these 637 homeowners will have more than one dealer to choose from. A reasonable assumption for a million population market is that the equipment brand will have about 15 dealers. Divide 637 by 15 and the result is 42 calls per dealer over a 12-month period. That's 0.5% of planned replacements. Sure, there are a lot of assumptions made in this exercise, but it's still not that many leads. Plus, the quality of a lead from a consumer looking for a manufacturer's dealer is less than a lead from a consumer looking for the contractor's brand. Contractors give up very little by dropping the emphasis on the manufacturer, and you gain much by focusing on your own brand. So how can you win with a branding program like the one offered by the Retail Contractor Coalition? Well, John Price used to operate his company as the Price Service Company. He was skeptical about branding. Not anymore. According to John, it's been phenomenal. It's easier and simpler than he perceived it would be. He said he went in with fear and apprehension about how the employees and, more importantly, the customer was going to react to it, but it's been phenomenal. He's had great luck with it. John says that it's been the best breath of fresh air he's seen in his company in a long time. Past Contracting Business Contractor of the Year, Steve Miles, is another strong proponent of branding. Steve illustrates how a strong contractor branding program generates results. Despite the lack of a summer in the St. Louis area in 2009, Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning showed remarkable growth in sales, replacements, and profitability by pushing the Jerry Kelly brand and using their own brand of Goodman equipment exclusively. As a contractor, a branding program like the Retail Contractor Coalition helps you sell more and drop more to the bottom line. According to the branding consultancy Interbrand, the value of the Coke brand is $67 billion. This is 2/3 of Coke's market cap. Doubt it? It costs just under $1 million to open a McDonald's restaurant. For a little over $250,000, you can buy an established no-brand fast food restaurant. This means that the McDonald's brand is 75% of the equity in a McDonald's restaurant. So when is a brick not a brick? The answer is when a brick is a brand. By differentiating themselves on quality and stamping their name in the end of Random Bricks, Acme Brick was able to differentiate itself in the Southwest, generating a 10% premium for a commodity product, earning a 50% metro market share, and an 84% brand preference. Warren Buffett bought the company, stating, "We place a high value on investing in companies with strong brand positions in their market." You see, a branding program makes your company more saleable. Okay, so now I've won you over. How do you brand your equipment? How does a contractor brand the equipment? What are the steps? What's required? And where do you start? And how do you persuade your technicians and your salespeople? Well, this is where the Retail Contractor Coalition comes in. You negotiate and buy locally, just like today. You receive local training and technical support, just like today. You get the same warranties from Goodman and Amana, just like today. Only the brand name changes on the box. What makes the Retail Contractor Coalition different? Well, there's several branding programs out there, and we believe this one is the best available. Here's why. It's head and shoulders above the rest. First, with the Retail Contractor Coalition, you own the brand. You aren't renting a brand name from a third party who can give it to a competitor or to a nearby contractor. After all, investing in someone else's brand is like depositing money in somebody else's bank account. The brand equity belongs to the brand owner, and the brand owner can keep it for himself or share it with anyone he wants, including competitors. We provide trademark branding and design assistance. We can help you go from this to this. And with mobile billboards like these, you can quickly raise your brand awareness in your local market above the equipment brand awareness. We are, after all, the industry's only group with internationally recognized branding experts. We provide you with turnkey marketing material ready to apply. This makes the conversion infinitely faster. You receive much more than logos and shields for your equipment. You get a full range of cut sheets with your logos, your website URLs, customized sales literature designed around your brand and your company, custom direct mail, press releases, a full range of logoed equipment photography, including unique photography with models, special audio CDs focused on selling the contractor's brand, featuring people like Robert Wilco, Steve Miles, Ron Smith, Jim Henshaw, and Tom Piscatelli. An RCC version of Charlie Greer's Slacker's Guide, the brand use seminar on branding, equipment websites, unique branding tools, a training DVD to persuade your staff, a guide to overcoming potential objections, a comprehensive manual on contractor branding that takes contractors step by step through the process, On your own, branding your company will cost far more and take far longer if you're able to get it done at all. We can have you up and running in weeks. Membership in the RCC includes the Service Roundtable, which is HVAC's largest business alliance. We have members in all 50 states, most Canadian provinces, the Caribbean, South Sea Islands, Australia, and Europe. Service Roundtable membership gives you access to more than 3,000 sales, marketing, and business management tools that can each be customized for your business. Members receive a 3% rebate on Goodman purchases and a 3% rebate on Amana. This more than covers the cost of the program, and members are encouraged to reinvest the rebates into local advertising and marketing. The cost is $1,200 setup and $200 a month afterwards with a 24-month agreement. Alternatively, members can join for $34.95 for the first full year. Not only does the Retail Contractor Coalition offer more than other branding programs, it offers it for less. And size is not a limitation to these fees with the current rebate levels. Most contractors with annual sales of $275,000 will find that their rebates more than cover the ongoing costs. It's not a question of whether you can afford to brand your business. It's whether you can afford not to. And every day you delay is expensive.